Hello, welcome to week 4. We're starting a new unit and this is our first lesson. So let's get into it. First of all, you need to have Desmos downloaded onto your iPad. So remember, Desmos looks like the green wavy lines. You can download that in self-service. So if you need to do that, go ahead and pause and download it and then come back when you're ready. The other thing we need is to have our PDF in Notability, and we're going to split screen the Desmos with Notability. So this assignment, the first thing we're going to talk about is how do you use Desmos to find something called a linear regression. So last unit, we did something called linear application, and now we're doing something called linear regression. So different unit, but very similar. We're going to use some of the same skills that we learned last unit as well. So the first thing we're going to do is enter in this information into Desmos. So go ahead and zoom in real big, and then you're going to press the plus sign that is in the upper left-hand corner in Desmos. So go ahead and press that and then go to Table. And there we go. Make sure nothing else is in Desmos right now. And we're going to enter in all this information. I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks, but I'm not going to make you watch me enter in every single piece of information. So I would recommend you use your keyboard to enter in this information. And then instead of having to tap with your finger over to the next cell, right? Instead of tapping over here with your finger, what you can do is use the tab key on your keyboard. So press tab and it'll just take you over there. Now that might seem kind of silly because it's just a keystroke instead of tapping with your finger, but it's really going to save you a lot of time. And watch this. You can also go tab and it'll start you down on the next line. So 19, 14, and then 339000. All right, I'm going to pause it here and enter in all this information, and I want you to do the same. Careful and good luck. All right, hopefully you're feeling successful and you were able to get that all written in. It is kind of tedious and time consuming, but that's an important skill to have, is to be able to pay attention and enter information correctly. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to tap on line 2. So that's down below the table. You're going to create a new line, and we're going to do the regression now. This is called a regression equation, and you're going to type in, notice here on your table you have, it says x1 and y1. So in order to tell Desmos that you want to use the table with x1 and y1, we're going to put in our equation, and it's going to be y equals mx plus b, but we're going to type it in a different way. We're going to type it y1, and all you have to do is just type y and then the number 1, and then you're going to use a squiggle, and the squiggle is on your keyboard, and it is shift, and it's that number, it's the key right in front of the number 1. Now, if you want to do that using the Desmos keyboard, you can. You just need to tap the ABC in the corner there, and then the squiggle will be there. So we don't want the double squiggle, we just want the single squiggle. So 2 ways to get the squiggle. All right. Then we're going to do mx1. So again, just type x1 and it'll automatically make it like this. And then you're going to write plus b. And then what that does is it shows you a bunch of information. And so I want you to pause here, double check that your numbers are the same as these numbers. So where it says m equals 187.086, double check that yours popped out with that information too. Where it says b equals 43777.3, make sure that yours popped out with that information as well. So go ahead and pause here and double check your information. If it's incorrect, you probably entered in the table wrong. So feel free, if you really can't figure out what you did wrong, take a screenshot and then send me that screenshot either in a text or an email, and I can help try to figure out what went wrong. All right, so pause and check your work. Okay, now we're going to do the last thing that you need to do in order to get your graph correct and take a screenshot, and then you're going to insert that into your Notability. So we need to do, and here we're just looking at the picture that's on your notes here. We need to enter in this information. So tap on the wrench in the upper right-hand corner. Then we're going to tap to add a label right there. It says square footage. And don't worry too much about what this is about right now. We're going to have a discussion in class about this information. Again, feel free to use the tab button here. It'll take you to the next cell. And then -1000, press tab, takes you to the next cell, 5500. That one takes you to the step. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. Okay, we need to put in price. Oops, capital X, price. And that's the Y value is price. And then -15,000 is that value there. And 800,000 is that value there. And now we should have a pretty clear picture. Go ahead and go to full mode here, and before you take a screenshot, make sure that you have your line equation, the regression equation, showing. It's really helpful. We need to be able to see as much information as we can. You could even go up and down. That will allow me to see everything that you put into Desmos. And this is helpful because then I'll be able to see what you did right or wrong and help you better. So try to tip your iPad sideways before you take a screenshot. All right, go ahead and do that, and then I will come right back and we'll get started on the next part of the examples. All right, so inserted my picture from Desmos here, and then unfortunately this check your graph here link does not work in a PDF. However, you can go back to the Schoology page and highlight it, copy paste into Chrome or Safari, and it'll take you to the correct answer, and you can compare your answers. There's a link like this for every single question throughout all the examples, so you can check your answers for the graph after you insert your screenshot, and then if it's not correct, it doesn't match up, then you can always redo it. All right, so let's keep going here. The next part is going to be actually using the linear regression that we just found. And so it says when you do a linear regression, it is basically putting a line through the middle of all the dots. And we kind of can see that in our regression that we were able to get from Desmos. It's like an average line. It's a line that represents the real life data as best as possible. And then telling you the equation of that line. What is the equation of the line in the example we just did? So again, we're going to set ourselves up for success. We know the equation of a line is y equals blank x plus blank. And the information that you got from here tells you that M is 187.086, and it tells you that B is 43777.3. So those are our M and B values. So I'd like you to round to the closest tenth for these. If you are a little confused about how to round to the nearest tenth, don't worry about it. Just do your very best. Remember, you know, I accept and respect you wherever you're at on your math journey. And, you know, you just showing me your best effort is the best place to start. And then we can figure out what you need from there. Okay, so there is our equation. It's messy. It's got a lot of decimals in it, but that's okay. We can handle it. So what we're going to do now is talk about what is the slope of the equation and what does the slope represent in this case. So we know from our questions that we answered in the last unit that slope is m. And when somebody asks you what does slope represent, it's asking you what does it mean in the real world. So what we're going to do is we're going to write it down. It's 187.1. And then remember, if it's not a fraction, then we need to turn it into a fraction. And how we're going to do that is we're going to say it is now over 1. It looks like I froze, so I'm going to pause here for a second. All right, so I think I got that fixed. So remember, slope is the change in y over the change in x. So we're going to look at this, and we're going to look at the y unit. What is the y unit, and what is the x unit? So let's rewrite it with those two units. And how do we know what the y unit and the x unit is for these types of problems? Well, you can see, you know, you have an x column and a y column that you put in. And in the original table, those two units are labeled. We have the x unit is square footage, and we have the y unit is price, and that is in dollars. So we're going to go back down, and we're going to talk about this. So this is the y's on top. Remember, that's price in dollars. And then the 1 is the square footage. And I'm just going to write it as Q foot because I'm lazy like every good mathematician. So now we need to write this as a sentence. Remember the slash in the middle or the fraction symbol. We use the word per or for every or for each, some kind of a rate word. And since it's positive, we know it means it's going up or that it's an amount that is positive. So we could say this so many different ways. Like I've said, here's my sentence. A house's price, I should say. The price of a house goes up $187.10 for every square foot. And so let's highlight the key things that you need to say in order to get full credit for explaining what slope represents. I'm going to highlight the fact that I understand that it's the price of a house in dollars. I need to make sure that I highlight the idea that I know that it's positive by saying going up or increases or some word that indicates you understand it's a positive slope. Obviously, I need to have the amount here. This one was kind of weird because with money, we use 10. We always have 2 decimal points. 0.1 becomes 10. I wouldn't mark off if you didn't do that, but that's a little extra. And then it says for every, so you need to have some kind of a rate word. You could use the word per, you could say for each, and then square foot. And I could have put in for every 1 square foot if I wanted to, but the word every indicates that it's 1 square foot, so we don't actually have to write the 1 square foot, but again, if you did write the 1, it's okay. All right, so I am going to stop the video here and start another one because we're just about out of time on this one. So go ahead and skip over to part B for this video, and we will do just 3 more questions and then you're good to go and start on your assignment. See you in a second.